Okay, I wanted to do a video on uppity unicorn. I said I would do one, so why not do one on this? It seems like an interesting title, and I don't know what she's gonna talk about. So let's see. I'm a supporter of uppity unicorn, obviously, as you can see here. Um, oh, that's an old one. I was like, did Madam trash that transsexual again? She used to talk about her, but anyway, going further.
So this couple did not show up on my news feed. In order to show this very beautiful couple, I had to Google black couple, and I chose this couple because their aesthetic, the darker man with the lighter, more ambiguous black woman, was the typical aesthetic. Now, there were some, I say this is typical, but it's not the only one, right? So oftentimes the roles are reversed as well, where there's a much darker woman with a much lighter guy.
Yes, people never talk about that. They act like it's only dark skinned black men who prefer lighter, more ambiguous looking women, but it's not. A lot of dark skinned black women actually prefer men with a lighter complexion with more of an ambiguous look.
And I'm just going through the pages, right? So, page 1, 2, 3, with the algorithm generating results for me for black couple. But this aesthetic with the racially ambiguous black girl and the dark skinned black guy is mostly what came up. And here's the deal, there's no problem. This is such an adorable couple. So freaking cute, so freaking young, all the potential in the world, and I wish them the absolute best. All I'm saying with this video is, black man, this is your speed, and you know it. This is what you do, and you know it. This is what you prefer, and you know it. No one's going to tell her she's pretty for a light-skinned girl. Nobody. The compliment doesn't exist in our community. Beautiful girl.
Nah, but many times people will try and attack lighter skinned women. Honestly, like there are times when they just say, is someone pretty or are they just light skinned? So people love to try and diminish light skinned black women's beauty, actually. And I'll say this, it's not just light skinned black women, it's also brown skinned black women that are downplayed a lot in favor of dark skinned black women. That's why it never really benefits us to, go in favor of either side, in my opinion. Not really for dark skin and not really for light skin, in my opinion. We are brown skinned and we should, celebrate all shades rather than anything against our own. Because that's self deprecation. Anyone going forward?
Girl deserves to be loved, and you are her audience as a general population of black men. Nothing wrong with that. And even if there was something wrong with that, it's nobody's business for the people in the relationship. So here, and I've noticed with some of the men when they make thumbnails in this sector and what kinds of women they put on their thumbnails when they want to put a beautiful woman, what kinds of women they put in their thumbnails when they want to put a ghetto or ratchet woman, and the colorism is very clear as well. It's very clear there.
I don't see that. Honestly, I've seen black men and black people associate the ghetto with black people. So if you're brown skinned, they'll call you ghetto if you're on your lighter end or your darker end. You understand how this works, you've talked about it yourself. When you talk about the whole thing of being light in the winter, do you ever notice that you're less likely to be called ghetto in the winter? Oh, no, 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 no. No. That's how you know as a brown skinned woman that that's not really true. At least I know that's not really true as a brown skinned woman. I know any complexion I'm at, people can make that stereotype of me. It's inconsequential of my skin tone. Therefore, if colorism existed, I would definitely feel it more than anyone else because my skin changes over the seasons. In the summertime, I'm basically dark skinned. So, if that's the case, shouldn't I feel the brunt of colorism? I still don't. Now, anyway, getting off of colorism, I want to talk about, though, the whole thing with light skinned women. Light skinned women who, honestly, they're stuck light skinned, right? But many of the time, they're still accused of being ghetto and ratchet. The whole stereotype of being black is a constant thing, It's pretty normal. Going further.
Here as well. So we're saying we know that this is you. Not in every case, but just in general, right? Because we can get to talking about, I have a new favorite couple, Destiny and Brandon. And while Destiny is an exotical based on her hair texture and phenotype, she's still very clearly a Black woman. So, I mean, that's a couple I adore as well.
Well, if Destiny is an exotical, aren't you? I don't know. Honestly, the way I see it, I see dark-skinned black women as exoticals. The most, actually. Especially the exotic African phenotype, because exotic means you have a rare phenotype. So light-skinned black women aren't really exoticals, to be completely honest.
Well. And there's definitely everybody's, Kevin, Melissa, Kev on stage, and their family, that exists. But again, you're getting more into unicornia when you talk that. But this is usually the preference. This is usually what's going on. So many times, the darker women may be in 7 or 11-year relationships, only to be used as a come up woman. Tory Hart, Tory Hart, Tory Hart. Kevin went from Tory to.
Yeah, I don't like to look at dark-skinned black women as the lesser woman, honestly. How does that make people who are my color feel when their interest is dark-skinned black men or black men in general, but they're basically saying that dark-skinned black women are come-ups and they're not valued by the men that they want? Maybe, like, that would be a dream come true, I guess, for someone my color. Because, who doesn't want to be preferred by something they want? But why would I want to paint that image of dark-skinned black women? I don't think that's even a true image. Honestly. But continue.
An ego, right? This is usually what the preference is, and we're just saying, okay. Like, if that's what you like, then okay. Like, nobody's willing to punish you for it anymore. Nobody's going to argue with you about it because you're a grown man. You know what you like, and you should have what you like without anybody bothering you about it.
To me, I don't think it's really any issue with their preference. What I think is more the issue is when they attack. Okay, so like I said, when I was getting all those comments about attacking dark-skinned black women on my page because of the Jessica X fanatics and crazies, to me it was like weird because these dark-skinned black men don't know how to even have a simple argument. Some of these, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying these kind of dark-skinned black men don't even know how to have a simple argument with a black woman because all they know how to do is self-deprecate. When they're attacking dark-skinned black women and they're dark-skinned, they're attacking themselves. There's no need to act like, oh, poor dark-skinned black woman. Oh, dark-skinned black woman is the one who's treated the worst. No. What's really going on is that dark-skinned black man hates himself that much. Why don't we look at the dark-skinned black man and realize how hurt he is and how he can't even think straight when he's in an argument with a black woman who isn't dark skinned because all he can think of is attacking his own image. And all he can talk about is how he's less than. That's more of the problem. Not to me, dark skinned black men who just happen to be with lighter skinned women. To me, that's not an indication of self hate. For one, anyway, most people are white in our society, so of course we're gonna prefer white phenotypes because that's mainly what we see, you know. But more attacking black women who are dark skinned, especially, while being dark skinned, is just the most stupid thing I've ever seen. And these fools don't even know how to fight a black woman who's not dark skinned. They really don't. But continue, girl.
Just don't, moan and complain about dark skinned black women figuring it out that, this girl could be a twin, a straight up twin with somebody who has her same bone structure, phenotype, whatever it is. She could be a twin. And the only difference between her and her twin is dark skin and a hair texture. She would be referred to as the pretty twin. Meanwhile, there would be some white guy with all the privilege in the world.
Not true at all. I don't understand why you mean to say that. This one, honestly, if she had dark skin, now you're gonna make me want to actually look up her photos and make her dark skin to see. Which is weird, I guess. But, I mean, I don't think she would be ugly being dark skinned. What? You really mean to tell me that light skin makes someone pretty? Your face is defined by your facial features, you know? So her beauty is going to be what it is. Honestly, having more ethnic features like a broader nose, high cheekbones, full lips, seems like she doesn't really have a brow ridge. And her eyes kind of look almond shaped. Actually, a little bit overly almond shaped, a bit. But anyway, that's her phenotype, right? Um, and you mean to tell me that you wouldn't think she would look like the full package if she was dark skinned? To me, honestly, with lighter skinned women, to be completely honest with you, sometimes when it's not its own phenotype and it's just basically light skin on a black woman who has certain features like this, it kind of looks like it's an undone package. And you'll see, I've actually depicted this before with some individuals. And I showed them dark skinned and how actually when they were dark skinned, they were actually better looking. So I don't think everyone has a look where they would look better if they were light skinned. People only say that because they hate their skin tone. And I'm not saying that Uppity hates her skin tone. Uppity isn't even dark skinned. But I'm just saying that people who say that you're pretty if you're light skinned, they're just stuck on color. They don't even pay attention to people's faces at this point. They're obsessed individuals.
World looking at the dark skinned twin. And here's the deal, they have the privilege to feel that way. So some of this is not your fault as black men. Some of this is not your fault, right? I'd say 90-10. 90% is your fault, 10% is not. Because at the end of the day, a lot of other men of color would also flex colorism. Most of the people who were subjugated by white people in their history are going to flex colorism because they want to get closer to that privilege. But these men who hold the...
Well, it's not quite that in our society because we have white people in our society. So we can easily be with white people. There are no anti-miscegenation laws either. So white people are open and available to us if we want to be with them. So if you're talking about colorism, you really mean internalized racism. Internalized racism would mean that they would go with white women. Now, like I said, the preference towards lighter skin, I do think that it's more likely to happen for black people because we see white people most of the time. So people that look more white are going to be preferred. Now, does this really mean for her? I don't think she looks specifically more white, looking at her facial structure. If anything, you could say more Asian ish, but definitely not white.
Most personal currency in their identity, white men, they don't have to think of that. They don't have that as a tax. So they can just kind of see a woman who is, blue black as the beauty queen that she is without having to be wary of her skin color because he's already got the privilege of,
I don't describe them as blue black like that. I don't know if they like being called that. I usually use the term onyx. I think that's a bit prettier of a term. Seems more regal to me. But yeah, going further.
identity when it comes to being at the top of humanity's pecking order, right? He doesn't have to worry about that the way a dark skinned black man would who.
Yeah, but we're all black, so I think that's a major reason why you're saying with white people they don't really look at us differently. You have to remember that white people sometimes get confused when they look at us anyway, where they don't recognize different, like that we're different human beings, basically. What I mean by that is they could literally be talking to their waitress who is light skinned, but then think they were talking to another waitress who is dark skinned. That's how you know they really don't pay much attention to the difference in skin tone like that. More of the time, what white people pay attention to is your facial features. I notice this with white people. That's how they differentiate people of color, basically. They will differentiate an Asian from an Indian from a black person to a Hispanic person. They differentiate all these things by looking at the face and sometimes looking at the hair too. But many times, men, for example, don't have hair that is showing. So they go off of facial features most of the time when they differentiate what race someone is. Going further,
who's at the bottom of the identity pecking order. I mean, well, at the bottom, and then there's black women, right? So granted, I mean, we live in a world, colonialism, white supremacy, that has put you in that kind of a position. But I mean, at what point do you do the mental work to be mentally strong? Because there are so many dark skinned black women who have had to do the work, with this beauty standard from the 90s that we fought. And now it's much more diverse.
I think by beauty standards, what beauty standards are you talking about that's against dark skinned black women? I don't get that. I really don't. I mean, as far as models and things of that nature, it's always been dark skinned, very ethnic, exotic black women, especially African women that have the ideal phenotype. So I don't really get what you mean by the beauty standards going against dark skinned black women. Do you mean to tell me you're talking about the white standards for black women? The cool thing about that whole situation is this. The white women standard of beauty does not apply to a black woman who is dark skinned, for sure. Everyone understands she misses completely that whole standard. And because of that, nobody holds her to that standard because they know she could never be of that standard. They don't even look at her and look for that because there's no commonality. But you know who gets the white woman's beauty standard? You know who does. And I can see that you know who does. I can see it in you. But anyway, it's light-skinned black women, biracial women, brown-skinned black women. Brown-skinned black women like you, I'm not saying like Gabrielle Union. So it's all those type of women basically that are basically imposed and forced upon with the idea of basically white women's standards of beauty. I mean, biracial women have the white woman's standard of beauty, definitely. And you can see this with many rappers, female rappers, for example. You see how they are pushed with blonde hair, how their skin, they have like contour heavily, they try their best to look like a tan blonde white woman as best they can, you know. You see this with Saweetie, you see this with Nicki Minaj, you see this with poor Cardi B. Cardi B has been going through so many plastic surgeries on her face to try and make her phenotype as Caucasoid as possible. I mean, you mean to tell me that black, dark-skinned women are put into that category of white woman standards? Do you see what happened to Lil Kim's face? Lil Kim is brown-skinned. She's not dark-skinned, And like I said, the white woman standard is imposed on brown-skinned black women and lighter. It's not imposed on dark-skinned black women. Everyone understands what a black woman who's dark-skinned is. They expect certain features on her. This is why the ethnic exotic phenotype is embraced and the natural phenotype for them is embraced. Because they expect them to have that phenotype. So it's not a shock. Now, yes, there are East African women who sometimes get put into the standard of white women beauty standards, but that's because of their facial features. Dark-skinned black women with certain facial features are not put into that category. Going further, though.
Because in reality, beauty comes in all forms. But I'm just like, so many men are not willing to do that work, and we can't do the work for you. But when you see women who look like this woman's opposite, I mean, expanding their options to dating non-black men. I mean, there should be no pushback, especially because black men date out.
Yeah, but there's no reason to try and treat dark-skinned black women who date outside of their race as if they are rejects. I don't think that they are rejected by black men. I don't think that they are someone who isn't allowed to have a preference. Why depict black women who are dark-skinned as undesirable to dark-skinned black men and reject it by dark-skinned black men? Why not view it as it is? Dark-skinned black men reject themselves, don't love themselves, and therefore can't be loved in those cases. And I wouldn't even say all dark-skinned black men are like that. But for sure, to me, I mean, like dark-skinned black women, I'm not going to try and depict them as like throwaway trash by dark-skinned black men. They aren't rejected. They are allowed to have a preference, and some of them prefer white men, and that's an honest preference. It's not because some black men didn't want them. It's because they frankly just aren't attracted to black men. And they have every right to not be attracted to black men, just like black men have every right to not prefer black women of any color, brown skin, light skin, or dark skin. Everyone has a right to their preference. And dark skinned black women shouldn't have their preference laughed at and just basically stamped as basically, oh, they're one of those rejects and dark-skinned black men didn't want them. No, that's not true. Dark-skinned black women are beautiful. Dark-skinned black women are wanted by many men of many races of many different complexions. They are just as valuable, if not more valuable, than brown skin and light skinned black women. And there's no need for us to try and act like they're rejects.
Out, procreate out, marry, whatever it is, outside of their race at 3 times the rate of black women, almost 3 times the rate that black women do. You still do it more than we do. And we do it for very different reasons. the majority of the black women that I know who end up with white men did not have a preference for white men, whereas the majority of the black men that I know that ended up with white women had a preference.
But just think, if black women don't have a preference for white men, why should white men be with a woman who doesn't prefer them? Regardless of race. I don't think white men should be sloppy seconds. You know, I think white men should be the preferred man. Why should a man be second fiddle? Why is he just the come up man basically? Just the man that black woman chose because there were no black men that wanted her? Do you see what that makes that white man look like? Don't you see what it makes that black woman look like? And dark skinned black women look like as a whole. I hate this narrative. It shouldn't be the narrative that dark skinned black women are unwanted. Dark skinned black women aren't unattractive socially, and they aren't unwanted. They aren't rejects.
Went out of their way to seek white women. We're very different in our mentality. We're very different in what we're looking for.
And I wanted to say, I am obviously someone who is divested and interested mainly in white, Hispanic, men. I've only dated white men generally. The current relationship I'm in with the white guy, so, to me, I do not think that most of us have a preference for black men or whatever. Like, why would you think that most people who interracially date have a preference for black men? Now, many of us actually are naturally just attracted to men of other races, and we're just living our truth and our life the way we were meant to, basically. You know, there's nothing wrong with being attracted to other races of men, just like there's nothing wrong with a man being attracted to other races of women, you know? Especially in a country where most of the people in our country are actually white. So most of the people we encounter that are attractive are going to be white. This is just a numbers game. And this has to do with our environment, and it also has to do with how we grow up with our sexuality and how it develops. Of course, it's going to develop more towards white people in our environment.
Especially when we're engaging in, interracial coupling. So anyhow, this is the black man's speed, and honestly, there should be no more fight over this. There should be no more disagreement. There should be no more, you have your preferences, so be it. The women who are not the preferences, they're just going somewhere to find out where they're a preference. I don't know why it hurts, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's not right. Why are we trying to act like... I don't understand. Why are you trying to act that way towards dark-skinned black women? To me, this is trashing dark-skinned black women. Why act like dark-skinned black women are undesirable or unwanted? That's just really uncomfortable to me. Just saying. I'm gonna continue to watch.
About this. I do not know why it hurts to be honest about this when you guys have been all over the internet and all over the manosphere, all over the place. Part of the reason Fresh and Fit has the audience that they do is because y'all identify with them. Y'all identify with them. Y'all identify with how they feel about black and dark-skinned women.
Well, the one who was saying Night Riders was homosexual, probably, because why was he thinking of himself writing anything? But he was not dark-skinned. He's brown-skinned. You can tell. His color's not really different from the average brown skin. So, I mean, someone preferring their own complexion, he said that he preferred red, so, of course that's his own thing, honestly, more the thing was him being gay that was a concern to me. That's why I didn't address the whole colorism situation. Because I didn't really see it as a colorism thing. I more so saw that as, some kind of issue where someone is just trying to be provocative, who's being rude, who's giving information that nobody asks for, things like that. But not specifically colorism, because it's nothing wrong with someone actually preferring their own complexion, or at least having attraction to their own complexion, over someone else's, is their own business. It's not really a shock. People do that all the time. People just aren't really comfortable with brown skin and light skin black people doing that because they're like, oh, we're all black. But it's like, well, it is a different phenotype, and if it's a different phenotype, you can't be shocked when someone prefers their own phenotype over someone else's. They didn't say that someone else with that phenotype needs to go kill themselves and die. They just said that they like their own phenotype over that person's. They're, maybe you could say they're egocentric, but definitely not colorist. Going further,
identify with how they feel about black and dark skinned women. This is what you like. And the women are just saying, okay. A lot of black women, we don't want to buy her hair. We don't want to buy her hair and pretend to be her for you to like us. We'd rather just go somewhere with our hair where it's as beautiful to another man that hers is to you.
And that's weird. Why are you talking from the angle of a dark-skinned black woman? Like, you're brown-skinned. And you look more like this girl than a dark-skinned black girl, honestly. Now, I would actually think this girl might actually look a little bit more ethnic in the face. But that's not the point. I just think it's kind of like, I would never talk from the angle of a dark-skinned black woman. I never do, even during the summer when I tan deeply. Because I feel like I'd be being deceptive towards dark-skinned black people. And also it really irks them because when you turn in this winter time lighter skinned, they get kind of freaked out. And like, if you were really trying to pretend you were a dark-skinned black woman like that, they should be freaked out because you were the one saying you were dark-skinned. That's why I don't talk from their angle, especially since it just basically looks like to me like you're playing a role that you can pretend sometimes, and then the tan comes up and then people know who you really are and they feel deceived, basically. But yeah, that's just a little weird to me that she's talking in that angle. Going further,
Black women are giving up on that game. And really, it's better for everybody's relationship because now, more monogamy can be achieved. Part of the reasons we have these jacked up relationships where there's always a third party situation is because the way we outnumber men, the way we compete for their attention, the things that we're willing to do to other women in order to secure that attention. It's just like, no, just date out. Because here's the deal. Black women are what, 5-6% of this country? Allegedly. 90% of white men can hate your guts. It only takes 10% of them to like you, and you're dwarfed. It only takes 8% of them to like you.
No, actually, that would be 3%, because half of the population, you have to think. It's not 60% of white men. In fact, white men are actually not even the majority white women are, That's why I always found it funny, kind of, well, not funny, it's sad, but, how white women in our history have been oppressed, by not having rights and things of that nature in our history. Yet throughout our history, they've been the majority. Like, That's a sad situation. But going further,
you're only 6% of this nation. You're dwarfed by the options. So we're just a little minority trying to stick to our little minority. And they're saying, she's at the top of the pecking order. And divested women and swirling women are just saying,
I don't think she's at the top of the pecking order. I think people mentally tell themselves that, you know. And I mean, like, would it hurt for someone like uppity to think that? No, it obviously isn't going to disadvantage her to feel that way. Maybe it's actually a good thing to think. It builds confidence, honestly. I personally don't need to think that because I'm not interested in black men altogether. But now that I think of it, it would be nice to think that in regards to white men. But I would never delude myself into thinking that anyway because I know better. you know, I don't know. I could never see myself above dark skinned black women like that. I could never see dark skinned black women at the bottom of the pecking order. I could never see black women as unattractive or unideal in the beauty standards. These things just never come cross my mind when I look at dark skinned black women, especially what they call the dark skinned black ambiguous woman, especially the exotic dark skinned black woman who, has the ethnic features, the more Afrocentric features. To me, I do not specifically see anything inferior about their phenotype. I don't see anything bad about their phenotype. I don't see how I could.
saying, okay. They're just saying, okay, you got it. I don't think there should be any more punishment about this. I mean, punishment, yeah, if you're going around calling people Shaquita and Darknisha and whatever else about a Knight Rider and a
Yeah, that's just being rude, And then the people, I think honestly, most of the self hate issues, because you won't see many light skinned and brown skinned black men acting that way. That one was just acting out that way because it needed some attention. And, it was fruity. But usually you won't see that often. Usually it's more dark skinned black men who do that. What the problem is you guys constantly are putting the blame on dark skinned black women when they're the epitome of femininity and beauty. And they're not the ones hating themselves. The dark skinned black man, he's a feminine looking thing who is, of course, insecure about himself because who wouldn't be, honestly? So the problem with him is this. You guys are not focusing on him. Of course, he doesn't want to be him, but you guys need to understand that and put the blame where it belongs, and that's with the dark skinned black man. You put it on the dark skinned black woman. It's not the dark skinned black woman's fault that dark skinned black men are mad that they are dark and bitter because they are dark and trying to find anyone to basically dilute their genes so then they don't have to see babies that look like them. That's their problem. Their problem is the fact that they can't stand being with a woman that looks like them because they hate themselves. you know that's what you need to focus on. You don't need to be focusing on dark skinned black women and saying, oh, dark skinned black women aren't the preference. Dark skinned black women are at the bottom of the pecking order. They don't meet the beauty standards. No, they don't. No, that's not the case. I'm saying that's not true. What is true is that dark skinned black men are insecure. Those dark skinned black men are insecure. They got some issues going on and they're just basically struggling with their own personal phenotype. The thing is with these individuals is that you guys don't realize how to actually put the blame on them because men often take their anger and their frustration out on others while women take that frustration and anger inwardly. And that's why we see that with the whole thing with dark-skinned people, the dark-skinned black women are internalizing the hate that dark-skinned black men are expressing outwardly that is meant for themselves. That is self-hate, personal hate that they don't like themselves. But for some reason, the dark-skinned black women who share this view of themselves are taking that poison and putting it inside of them. There's no need for them to internalize that shit. That's for the dark-skinned black man who doesn't love himself. That's for him and only him, not for any beautiful dark-skinned black woman.
Dabbling in the dark and calling people tar babies and what, like, yeah, that's inflammatory. But as far as you just having light skinned or mixed women as a preference, like there should be no more fighting about that. That should just kind of be accepted and everybody can move on. No one has to fight you about your colorism, right?
I think honestly they shouldn't be fought over if they're just having a preference. A preference is different than hating themselves. If they hate themselves, let the hate stay with them. Never put the hate on some innocent dark-skinned black woman and try and say she's the bottom of the pecking order.
We can work on our own corrective promotion. I think Asian men set a fire example when it comes to taking control of your own corrective promotion, because I'm telling you, just 10 years ago, it was just like, oh, they're so weak and feminine, and now everybody wants one, right?
Yeah, I'm not attracted to Asian men at all. I kind of label them in the same category as black men. I mean, they have the same facial features. To be completely honest, soft round nose, high cheekbones, full lips, and almond-shaped eyes, no brow ridge. They both look like their female counterparts. So, that's why I just don't find either attractive. But going further.
So that is what that is. I don't know why we have to lie about it now that women are talking about it in a more sober way. But that is what it is. This is your ideal coupling, and yeah, that's fine. Beautiful.
Okay, so I wanted to say in closing to this, dark-skinned black women are beautiful. They're gorgeous. They are the epitome of beauty for black women. And they honestly have all the features that exude femininity, like full lips, high cheekbones, soft round, small nose, almond-shaped eyes, and small brow ridge. I love how black women's hair is that's like 4C, thick, beautiful, long, hair. I just don't really see why people have to try and act like dark-skinned black women are undesirable or unwanted or, the lowest of a pecking order. No, 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 no. I think honestly, people who think that are really saying that they feel like they're the lowest on a pecking order. Completely honest. I will say that dark-skinned black women largely are actually much more beautiful and much higher on the pecking order of beauty in total than many brown-skinned black women, and than many light-skinned black women too. So, I mean, there's no need to be trying to act like dark-skinned black women are, not ideal and beautiful women. They're not rejected. And trying to paint the idea that dark-skinned black women who are in interracial relationships, that they are basically just dealing with rejection from black men and that's why they're with other races, is really, really, really rude and disgusting. Because you're basically saying that their preference doesn't matter. Their interest doesn't matter. All that matters is the black man's gaze and whether he wanted her or not. That doesn't matter. If a dark-skinned black woman doesn't want a black man, that's it. That's the end of the story. If she's not attracted to black men, that's it. That's the end of the story. It's got nothing to do with what black men want, why black women divest. For one, I'm brown-skinned. I'm not dark-skinned. I'm the same color as uppity. And I am not any reject, okay? I'm not a reject at all. I just don't want dark-skinned black men. They aren't attractive to me. They look just like my mother, and they look extremely feminine. There's nothing attractive about those individuals, okay? I think they should be just happy some women are attracted to them. Don't be acting like everybody's got to be attracted to you when you look like a whole woman. So, to me, it's just like, I don't get why people want to always paint the view of divesters as if the only reason we choose what we choose is because black men don't want us. That's not true. A true divester is actually attracted to other races, And our first option and our only option is white men, and men of other races outside of our own, So, I mean, acting like we are the type that basically, are in one way or another just angry and bitter at black men or like rejected by black men in one regard or another, that's not true. It's just not true. I know a lot of black men who want to believe that's true because they hate the idea that somebody doesn't want them because they are a black man and it's unattractive physically and emotionally, But, some people are just not attracted to black men. That's not even hate towards black men. That's just that black men don't do it for us. End of story. And we shouldn't be judged just because we don't prefer black men. Any more than black men shouldn't be judged for the fact that they might not prefer a black woman. They may prefer a white woman. We prefer white men, And there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. Most people are white in this society. So if you're mad that people are attracted to most of society, maybe you're just upset because we have a bigger dating pool than people attracted to only black people. That's how I feel. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and have a great day.